What's happening, everybody? Welcome to the Gangrene Eagle Show presented
Dallas
by
sucks.
SeatGeek. Chris and John here with you, and also a special guest. Yes, he's the VP of the Ring the Bell Network. However, for the purposes of this show, he is the host and creator of the Cowboys Takeover podcast. Jason Kent, what's going on, man?
It's a wonderful day over here. It's beautiful. Great to be here. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
For sure. And look, man, boy oh boy, like y'all definitely showed out for our first episode last week of the Gangrene Eagle Show. We are on the doorstep of over 5,000 views on that episode over on YouTube. And we are just under 10 subscribers away from 2,000 for the RTB network.
So hit the
This
subscribe button now.
Yeah, definitely. So if you're watching
That
on
was
YouTube,
aggressive, though.
hit the like button, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications. This thing's growing faster than Jason and I ever even discussed, and it's been really cool to be at the forefront of all of that. Now, our flagship show, Ring the Bell, will stream our mega 2024 preview and prediction show Wednesday night, which is tomorrow on this channel. Opening day is next week. Wheeler versus Strider. Whoa, inside Citizens Bank Park. Can't wait. It doesn't feel like the end of March is basically next week yet. Here we are. So, please inject that into my veins every single time. And that's what we got coming up next week. But now let's talk some Eagles football. And I'm also going to bring up
one thing before we go. I'm not to toot my own or anything, but it seems the growing came when somebody joined the squad. I don't just want to point that out there.
Yeah, we'll go. I mean, that's fine. We'll go with that. I mean, there hasn't been an episode yet where I've patted myself on the back, but let's give this one to you. Let's let you be the first to pat ourselves on the back.
Hey, I don't. I've been here for maybe 6 months. You guys are doing it for like a year, so it could just be coincidence,
right? So we're here to talk Eagles football. We're also going to talk about the Cowboys because look, it's a big deal, man. That's their division rivals, obviously. They're set to have another really good season, regardless of how their offseason is going. We're going to talk to Jason about the Cowboys offseason or lack thereof and where they're headed, what I guess they feel like they're going to reload, I guess, during the draft. Yeah, so we're going to talk to Jason about that. So when we streamed our first episode last week, the Eagles had only signed Saquon Barkley and Bryce Huff. Since that day, Howie Roseman was still pretty active in retooling this roster. Devin White, CJ is back. Oren Burks, Zach Bond, Matt Hennessy are all Philadelphia Eagles. They also traded for former Pittsburgh Steelers starting quarterback Kenny Pickett to be the backup to Jalen Hurts. So lots to talk about here, John. Overall, what were your thoughts on the moves? I mean, we're going to kind of go through the players, but we'll do that later on. But what were your immediate thoughts, or maybe your grades on the moves that Howie made post Saquon and Huff?
He realized he absolutely fucked up last year. Not bringing back Gardner Johnson, not bringing incomparable linebackers.
Right.
And obviously the Kenny Pickett move is they really didn't have a backup. So Hurts really went down. Like they were really screwed last year. So that's something like where I think Kenny Pickett, he's a comparable backup. He's good enough. He's played in this league. We're the QB factory, as people like to know. I mean, Gardner Minshew went out and had a great year last year. He got another contract with the Raiders, so I'm sure he's going to go out and do his thing. So we're just a QB factory here in Philadelphia, and I'm sure Kenny Pickett will be here for a year or two, and then he'll go out and he's going to go get a starting job somewhere as well. I think that's just how it's going to work here from now on.
Jay's smiling because he might be the starting quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys in 2025.
No, definitely not. That's the best comment I've ever heard over there. That's all.
So let's start things off with the big topic. And I'm going to get Jason's opinion on this as well, because look, Jason he's a Cowboys guy, but Jason's a massive football fan, so he pays attention to everything. He pays attention to a lot about the Eagles as well. Not to blow up your spot here, so I'm sure none of your Cowboy takeover listeners honestly, are watching.
When I think about it, Cowboys fans are delusional a lot, so I can't really say they know much about football.
So the ones
That's
around
Skip
here.
Bayless in your corner, so
Skip Bayless has an audience of one, and that's himself. But so let's talk about Hassan Reddick. And I think the writing is all but plastered on the wall that he's not going to be a Philadelphia Eagle much longer. And I was just looking at this, since he's been a Philadelphia Eagle, he's fourth in sacks and 23rd in salary. And it's wild where he's, Bryce Huff is going to be making more than him this season. And he obviously wants to get paid, and he's earned it. He's earned that. He's one of the best defensive ends in the NFL. He's got 27 and a half sacks over the last couple seasons, plus another 3.5 in the postseason. So the problem is, though, which is weird, John and Jay, and I want to start this off with you, John, on this. It's clear he's a star at his position. He's a very valuable asset to a team, yet the Eagles don't want to pay him, and it's clear teams don't want to trade for him. So there's something there. There's something, and I don't know what that is. I'm not trying to speculate and say he's this or that. Maybe it's because he's turning 30 very soon. And what do you think this is, where the Eagles don't want to give him what he's worth, but yet there's no other team out there that wants to trade for him? Because they'll have to pay him anyway. But what do you think the deal is here with Reddick not being wanted by the Eagles and other teams not wanting the guy?
I don't think he's as good as he thinks he is, and how you're kind of describing him. He
27 and a half sacks over the last couple years.
I got that. But he's also playing on the Eagles' defensive line, which is one of the best in the league year in and year out. So he's there. He has people like Fletcher Cox getting on there. Jalen Carter was the guy getting double teamed most of the year, anyways. Josh Sweat on the outside, who's Brandon Graham, who had 11 sacks the year before. Yep. And then in Carolina, you got Brian Burns was the number one guy there. And then when he had that great year in Arizona, Chandler Jones, I believe, was still there. J.J. Watt was on the other side. He was not the best. He's not getting double covered. It's not like the T.J. Watt. You have to put two guys on T.J. Watt, or he's going to sack the quarterback. That's the issue. He has all those great numbers sack-wise, but he's not great against the run. So it's like what did you went into business for yourself this year, and you did not try to stop the run. You tried to sack the quarterback, and you still only.
Well, so did Josh Sweat, and they paid him
50 sacks in the last 4 years, and you're telling me he's not good.
As good as he thinks he is. I don't think he's a $25 million a year player. That's what the market said. That's what he wants. He wants
numbers are telling you that.
So again, Brad brings up a good point, and that's what I kind of said. Is the main fact, John and Jay, you both can answer this, Jay, first. Do you think the main issue is that he's just, it's funny to say this, but he has age against them?
Yeah, well, that, and I think both of that. You don't want to. Eagles in that predicament Dallas is. They have a lot of great players. You can't pay everybody. I think that's part of it with the Eagles. He is starting to hit the age, so you don't know with pass rushers if that's something that he's going to lose. You do see some of them usually go to 34, so I think he does still have some time in there if you want to give him a shorter deal. But I also think, like you said, in the trade market, you also have to. If you're trading for Hassan Reddick, you have to be a good team, I'm feeling, and you're going to have to pay him. So that's kind of, I think, like you said, if you're having to pay the guy, that's going to give you second thoughts. And then what the Eagles' asking price is going to be for a dude that has 50 sacks in the last 4 years and 27 in the last 2, it's going to be a hefty tag. So it's just it's a tough deal to make right now, knowing what everything is playing into it's going to be. It's tough either side.
John, why do you think it's hard for them to move him right now?
Same reason. That's what it is. I mean, just you can go out there, and this year was a big market for edge rushers. A lot of guys got, that were better than him, got their money, got paid, and signed different contracts. So everybody felt they could go there. And then plus, I'm sure the Eagles are asking for a second or first round pick. I don't think they're looking at that he's sacking the quarterback, and that's what you get paid for in this league. So that's what they're like. We want a second round pick. They saw what the Rams gave for Von Miller, and at this point, Von Miller was really not playing that great when he was, and they got a second and third for him. So I think that's what the Eagles are basing it off of, and they're just not going to get that. And I think the only team probably interested really was Dallas, and Dallas, they're not going to deal in Dallas.
No, so I look at it this way, and this was reported yesterday. Jeremy Fowler of ESPN said the Eagles are moving Hassan Reddick's $1 million roster bonus, originally due March 15th to April 1st, which in theory, again, buys Philadelphia time to find a trade partner before having to pay the money. You would think it would look better to trade him if you tell the team you're trading him to, we're taking care of that $1 million roster bonus. But that's just my opinion. I know it's $1 million. What's that mean to me? And then you had Jeff McClain on 97.5 The Fanatic today. And he quoted by saying, the Eagles are still far apart on a deal. Haasan is pretty much adamant that he wants to receive a certain amount in terms of a new deal for what he believes he is worth on the open market. And the Eagles aren't really willing to pay that. So you look at what he made, $14 million. Again, he's 4th in league in sacks since coming to the Eagles, and he's 23rd in salary. So whether or not you like him or not, John, the guy deserves the money. He deserves to be paid what the market is going for.
Okay, so shut up and win Defensive Player of the Year, and then you'll get your money. How would you do that?
I mean, Bryce Huff just got paid more, and he is not even a quarter of the player. So what's your logic? Your logic is flawed because you're mad that he gave up the last few weeks of the season.
Yeah, so why would anybody want to pay a dude who just gave up on the team?
Well, are you better? Do you have a better chance at winning the Super Bowl with or without Hassan Reddick?
I can't answer that question until the trade deadline.
Reason you are just knock it off, because now I question your knowledge, but I question your football IQ if you really give me that. When you sit there and you say, "Oh, you don't understand Dallas fan, you don't know football," and you give me a quote like that,
yeah,
I question your IQ. I question your knowledge of football, my friend.
If he wants an outrageous amount of money, John, I get it. You can't pay.
He's going to say.
You can't pay everyone.
You can't pay him, but he's not saying he's not deserving is ridiculous.
And then trying to somehow say they don't have a better chance at winning without him for one more year.
Because I have to see what they get in the draft. Because he is a good player.
The draft is giving you automatically 14 sacks. Give me one player in the draft that's going to do that for you.
You just signed Huff, so you make that up with Huff.
He had 10.
Okay.
But
you just said no, because you just said draft. Don't give me Huff makes it up. You said you want to see what they do in the draft. Name me one draft player that's coming in next year and give me 14 sacks. 0. That's your answer.
John, you were also against Huff.
Robinson has, but he's still. If you bring him as the second guy, and he had 10 sacks last year, he probably won't have 10. He'll probably have 6. And then you bring in a guy like Chop Robinson, and then you let a guy like Nolan Smith actually play this year. That can make up for the 14 sacks. You can't. You're right on one player. You're 14 sacks. You can get 14 sacks a bunch of different ways. Carr has another big jump because he was a pretty good player last year.
Mm-hmm.
Who else do we? Oh, there we go with this stupid shit again. You have Carter. Maybe Davis takes another jump. Maybe Williams gets more playing time since Fletcher Cox is gone.
Or maybe if you have Hassan Reddick, all of these players get one-on-one, and Haasan opens it up for all of them.
Hassan's not getting the double coverage.
He will now. He's your guy. He's their guy.
He wasn't our guy last year getting the double coverage.
He's their best defensive
He's their best
player.
Pass rusher. Hands down.
I don't like the fact that, John, you and I talked about that. It was clear on tape that Reddick and Sweat gave up or went into business for themselves, as we said a few times. But the fact of the matter is, Hassan Reddick, right now, he's still on the roster, is the best defensive player on the roster. He is, without a doubt. Right now, he's their best defensive player. It's hard.
I might go Carter. He may die down at the end of the season, but he was getting...
No, he died down the last 10 weeks.
Yeah, it's the first time he's played football he's ever played in his lifetime. Of course it's going to happen. It happens to rookies all the time.
That's not my problem. I'm worried. I need a guy that's going to produce for 17 weeks.
You're correct.
I know I'm correct.
But what's his name did not produce for 17 weeks because he really... Did
Look, John...
produce for 17 weeks? No.
I'm not saying he did. I'm not saying he did. I'm going to repeat myself. If he wants $25, $26 million, I understand not doing it. I get it. But if he wants 22 and the Eagles are only offering like 19, then I have an issue. Then it's like, okay, you can give this guy $22 million for one more year. You get one more shot with him on your roster at his prime to make it to a Super Bowl.
You're saying give him this year 22 million, give him a raise now.
Yeah. You have to. He's underpaid. He's been under. When he signed the contract, he was underpaid.
But that's not what he wants. He doesn't want $22 million this year. He wants a full new deal. That's
But we know the NFL. He can sign a 3-year deal and get $22 million a year, and they can trade him or cut him after a certain time, and they don't really owe him anything. But I'm trying to just my point of this whole thing right now, and I like this that we're already debating because it means we're not even in the season yet, and we're debating about a guy who's probably not going to be here in 2 weeks. But the Eagles are better off with Hassan Reddick to win a World Series, to win a Super Bowl, than they are without the guy. Because again, I know what you're going to get at Hassan Reddick. You're going to get between 10 to 15 sacks. We don't know what we're going to get out of Nolan Smith. I think Nolan Smith can get to a point where he's a very productive player. I really do. But I don't know if that's right now. Jalen Carter completely just fell off the face of the earth the final 10 weeks of the season, whether it was because it was the most football he's played, notwithstanding, that's not my problem. I need production to get wins. And I just feel like, and again, we don't know what the asking price is from Reddick. So it's hard for me to completely assume the situation. But for me, if there's a chance
it's north of 25 million, I can tell you
then I understand them kind of moving away from that. But if, let's just say
20, I'm fine with 22 mil.
I'm completely okay with 22 million.
Mine was 20 million a year, but 22 is not that bad. But he's not worth north of $25 million at the age, and he's not a Joey Bosa. He's not a Joey Bosa, Nick Bosa. He's not a TJ Watt. He's not a Max Crosby. He's not these guys. These top Myles Garrett. He's not these top guys in the league. Like he's not even. He barely got any Defensive Player of the Year votes the year he had 16.5 sacks, and he had a better. He's not. Yeah, not Micah Parsons.
He's definitely
Parsons. Micah Parsons is getting held every single play, no flags called. You see that all the time. He's getting double, triple teamed, and he's still getting all that. He's not that player, and he's not worth north of $25 million.
I agree. However, go ahead.
There was I remember.
I don't even think Montez Sweat was worth that money, and that's what makes it even worse.
Josh Sweat?
Montez Sweat.
Montez Sweat from
Bears got the $25 million.
He got a lot.
I think he's better than that guy, and I don't think he deserves $25 million a year, and he got it. So that just makes the situation even worse.
Yeah,
because he's gonna be. I'm better than this. Look what I've done. Look what he's done.
I remember when Micah was on with all those Eagles guys. Maybe the Eagles are trying to save it for him when he hits free agency. If he does, bring Penn State boy back home.
Happen, dude.
Bring him back with Saquon.
This is the issue. That's never going to happen. He's going to get the biggest check ever for an edge rusher in the history of football.
Oh, Dallas is paying him at some point.
Yeah, you can't. That's just never going to happen.
He's going to get the biggest contract.
$100 million per year.
If it was true, the reports that Dallas won Hassan Reddick, we will gladly.
No, I don't want. You can't. Dallas,
give you Hassan Reddick and our first round pick this year.
Dallas can't take him.
Micah.
There's no reason.
No. So okay. Before I move on to,
but he's a great player. He had 50 sacks. He has more sacks than Micah.
He's not Micah. Dallas needs a defensive tackle.
That was my
let's
point
just
exactly in the
let's just be honest about Micah.
He thinks he is.
Let's be honest about Micah. And Jason and I talked about this almost every week during the football season. If the Dallas Cowboys would just say, "Hey, Micah, you're going to be a defensive end," and that's it, he's getting 18 to 22 sacks a year.
He could touch the record.
Absolutely, it's not even close.
He would be JJ Watt.
Yeah,
well, he should do that. I don't know why he doesn't do that.
Dallas doesn't want him.
I would do that. First of all, I would do that this year.
Now with the way their defense is set up.
Right.
If I'm Micah, I'm coming out publicly and saying I'm a defensive end because if they want to franchise tag him, that's where he's gonna get fucking screwed.
Yeah, but Dallas can say you're not.
He's gonna get paid like a linebacker instead of an edge, instead of a defensive end.
Well, at least that's all guaranteed money. So I mean, Kirk Cousins made a career off of it, so he'll just keep setting the record for it. All right. So last question before we move on. I'm going to end it with John. I'm going to start with Jason. Jason, as an outsider looking in, which is the perspective I always love getting. are the Eagles better with or without Hassan Reddick?
Yeah, I don't see a reason. I get you want to try to move him or what. Like, to me, you're under contract for this year. Suck it up, because we need you to make our run. You're one of the best defensive players in the league.
Yeah.
We're a better defense with you on this field.
That's
People
my point.
forget.
Yes.
People forget that, the pass rush helps your DBs back there. It saves them. So it's such a big deal. The Eagles should not try to trade him. They should definitely keep him and figure something out. Even if he walks after, even if he's a free agent and he leaves, you need him this year, because you don't know how much longer you have left. Because they're, the core guys, a lot of them will start coming for contracts soon.
Yep.
Never know when it could be over. So I think you take a run at it.
John, with or without Hassan Reddick, are the Eagles better?
They're better with Reddick right now.
Okay. That's why I wanted to know. All right, John.
Well, obviously they're going to
Jason.
be worse, but if they go in the draft and they get like a Chop Robinson, I think they could possibly be a better team.
But that goes back to Jay's point. Is there a defensive end that's coming out of the draft who's going to give you 10 to 15 right off the bat?
0.
That's a misleading stat, because you can pick up those 10 to 15 sacks in different areas of the game.
Maybe.
You can also pick them.
players.
You can also pick them up when they're there, and Hassan Reddick's also there. So now you're adding on to your sack total for the season. You're having that big sack numbers.
That was the problem in the past few years with San Francisco. They were so reliant on Nick Bosa, and they realized that, nobody else can get to the quarterback except Nick Bosa. Whereas it's such a great asset to have a Hassan Reddick there, because like Jason's saying, you get your 15 from him, and how about you get more from the others? So it creates opportunity for the other guys. So that's where I'm struggling with the idea of not having Hassan Reddick anymore.
It was such a good story too. He came home.
Yeah.
His hometown team. I really thought they were going to figure something out. When I heard he got traded here, I thought there's no doubt this kid's going to finish his career an Eagle, because it's the perfect story for him, great coming home. And it just, man, it feels like they ruined it. Both sides kind of ruined it.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to see where this goes.
I don't think he gets traded, to be honest with you. I don't think he was really ever going to get traded. I mean, it was just a thing where, like, they did this with Slay last year. Slay wanted an extension, and they were cutting you, and then all of a sudden, 3 days later, he's back with his massive deal. I think it's the same thing. They're like, go ahead, go see what's out there. Go see who else wants to pay $25 million and give us a second and third round pick. Or go see what happens. And obviously, there's nothing out there. Like, there's not even talks about it. There's not even a single rumor. The Dallas would be interested in Haasan, which. Mm-hmm. I didn't hear Jerry Jones say it. Somebody just said that it's so who knows if that was even true.
Yeah, it's just crazy. And like I said, for those who are just joining, I just saw a pretty significant uptick in who's joining us right now. Look, currently Reddick has the 24th highest average annual salary amongst edge rushers at $15 million per year. But that 27.5 sacks are tied for fourth most in the NFL over the last 2 seasons, behind only Myles Garrett, Nick Bosa, and Micah Parsons. But like we said, as productive as Reddick has been, he turns 30 in September, and it's never easy to trade older veteran players. But then again, man, I look at somehow Chase Young has a great agent. He just got $13 million guaranteed from the Saints for 1 year, which again, that doesn't work in the favor of the Eagles, who are trying to
deal, man.
$13 million for a guy who does absolutely
nothing in his career.
He had his first full healthy season back. He had 7.5 sacks. So I mean, $13 million for that. When all the guys were getting 10+ sacks a year, getting $25 million a year.
Okay.
When a guy like Huff, 10 sacks, got $17 million, $13 million for 1 year. That's pretty cheap.
So he had 7.5 sacks in his first year, right? So
yes, and then was hurt the next last year.
I get it.
First full healthy back year had 7.5 sacks,
and has 9 sacks since then, total. So, Hassan Reddick gets 9 sacks in 8
years.
I think he had a sack in the Super Bowl too.
Well, he should have gotten $25 million then.
Just
this guy.
It's really
all right.
in today's market. That's not really that expensive when you see what the edge rushers are getting paid. Brian
Which
Burns
is
got
why
a
I
huge
don't
deal.
have a problem paying Hassan
Brian Burns
Reddick.
had what 6 sacks this year?
Right, and you're complaining about paying a guy who gets 10 to 15.
That's what we think he's good at. I don't think he doesn't really draw a double team.
Sorry.
He doesn't really draw a double team.
That's okay, but who cares? Then that's the other team's problem. Why do you want him to draw the double team? If he's getting to the quarterback on a one-on-one,
he's not as good as you're saying he thinks he is.
The numbers tell me he is, buddy. The numbers tell me. The numbers aren't lying to me in this situation. The numbers tell me when you have 4 straight years of 10+ sacks, the numbers tell me you're pretty good.
I'm not saying he's a bad player. I've never said he was a bad player. I think he's a good player. I just think he's a one-trick pony who can sack the quarterback a bunch. I don't think he's a great run stopper, which you need to be good at.
I agree.
That's
Can I ask you a question?
the biggest problem.
What's
with
the
Eagles
edge
at the
rusher?
year on
What's the
defensive
pass rusher's job? What's his number one goal? When you have a guy that can go get the quarterback, when you have a Lawrence Taylor, when you have a Micah Parsons, when you have a DeMarcus Lawrence, DeMarcus Ware, when you have a Reggie White, what's your job?
It's a run play, and he runs straight for the quarterback.
What's your job?
And the running back cuts it to the outside like they did all at the end of the season last year, and we're getting 7 yards a run on the outside because Reddick wasn't containing the guys inside for the linebackers and the defensive tackles to make the play. That's a problem. Does the same thing on the other side. And guess who else does that? Bryce Huff. So now you have three edge rushers, and you're relying on a 36-year-old Brandon Graham to be your guy that is the only guy on the team who can stop the run on the outside. Like that's what you're relying on. That's a problem.
You're relying on
he
the
wants
team.
25+ million
agree.
a year.
No, I understand. I get it. All right. We've spent about 24 minutes on Hassan Reddick yelling at each other. So let's kind of relax now, take a seat back here because we don't know. This is only a developing story with Hassan Reddick. We don't know what's going to be going on over the next few days or the next week. But all right, John, I'm going to direct the attention here to our guest. Jason, you are the host of the Cowboys Takeover podcast. We know what the Eagles have been doing. Even off, on the record here, I talk about every signing with Jason with the Eagles because, again, just a good person to talk football with. Jay, you're a Cowboys guy. Can you kind of let us in on what you believe the Cowboys are doing or lack thereof? This offseason has not treated them well. A lot of exits. One major addition in Eric Kendricks. But still that long list of departures is growing. And I know I think what they have like $3.5 million under the cap right now. Dak is due $61 million under the cap this year. Like you have already said in the beginning, Parsons is coming down the
Dax
pike.
went down. Dak's cap hit went down like $4 million.
Okay, so what's it up to like 58 now?
I think it's 55 now or
55. And then you have, CeeDee Lamb coming up. What's going on with the Cowboys, Jay? Is it more of they're looking to retool at the draft? Do you see them extending Dak anytime soon? What's your thoughts on the Dallas end of things?
Right now, it's tough. They're in that position. Like I said earlier, you have, Dak who is kind of still looking for that new contract. He signed a 4-year deal a couple years back, and then you have CeeDee Lamb who's coming up this season, the final year of his deal, and Micah's 2 years out. So they're kind of in that scenario where you have a lot of talented stars, and you can't pay everybody. They just paid Trayvon Diggs. So they're in that position now where, you lose your left tackle and your center. Tyron Smith, you're not sure. You may be able to get him back if the market's not out there. But when healthy, he still can be, a top left tackle in the league. So, he may get picked up. So they're losing all this, and, they don't have linebackers. So the Kendrick signing was good, but I was just upset. I really wanted – the guy I wanted was Devin White. That's the dude I was looking at. I had him circled. I was like, on my last show, I said, he's the dude I want Dallas to really go after next, because that's something they really lack, is a presence in the middle of that defense. So it's just tough because they haven't made any signings. They haven't tried to fortify their defensive line. They're missing two offensive linemen. you just don't. Nothing's really come out. There's really no news of what they're trying to do right now, and you're wondering because they still have a lot of holes, as you saw. That last playoff game, the way it ended, Aaron Jones gashed us. That was the issue all year for the last few years. They have a fast defense. They're not really physical defense. And then you lose two fifths of your offensive line. It's you lose your number 2 receiver. They're in a spot where they're still going to be a talented team, but they may take a step back this year because they don't have the pieces and they're not going to be fully fortified.
Where do you see this franchise going with Dak Prescott?
Honestly, for me, if it were me, and I've said this to you a million times, I've said it on my show, I would move off of him. To me, I don't think he's a quarterback, and it's not a slight on him. When you look in the last 20, I said this to you, when you look at the last 24 years, how many quarterbacks outside of a major superstar has won a Super Bowl? Dilfer, Foles, I think there was another one we had in there, but there's been like
Flacco.
Like the rest of them are Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Ben Roethlisberger, so but I just don't think he's the guy to get it there. And when I've watched his last few playoff performances, he's really struggled. I don't know why Mike Irvin thinks he could be the next Tom Brady. That one got me. But I think they're going to pay him because if you lose Dak, the problem is you go from right now where you can be a consistent 12-win team. I don't think Dak can get you to that Super Bowl.
Yeah.
If you get rid of Dak, now you don't know. Now, you may not be that 12-win team and you don't know what you're getting out of the draft. So they're in a tough position. So I think at the end of the day, you are the Dallas Cowboys. You want to put a winning franchise, a winning product out there. You kind of have to sign Dak. But I think they should look somewhere else. I think you get somebody else in there. There's a lot of quarterbacks. I don't think Baker Mayfield can win us a Super Bowl, but I think a guy like that, I know he signed, but a guy like that could have been a holdover for a year, and you try maybe go up in the draft, or this year there's a ton of quarterbacks coming out that they're people think highly of. Maybe look to groom somebody, or even see if Trey Lance, the guy they got from San Fran, could be could he be the next dude? But I just don't think Dak can get you there, so it's tough.
If you're Jerry Jones, do you call up the Los Angeles Chargers and try to get?
You can't. You can't. There's no way you can get the compensation for that because there's that type of quarterback. Because I still think he is an upper tier quarterback with the arm talent. So you're gonna have to give up at least 4 first-round picks.
But what if you give them Dak? Dak's comparable. Maybe Harbaugh can make him into a winner. Different, different organization,
younger.
different philosophy.
If I'm going to pay either one of them, Herbert's much younger. Dak, I don't want to pay that kind of money.
But what if it becomes a situation where Herbert's unhappy? Because look what they just completely
obliterated everything around him.
But I think anywhere you're looking, Herbert's a guy. I think Herbert's a guy like that. You're going to have to give up a lot of stuff.
So let's just say they extend Dak. Do you still think there's a future where Dak, Micah, and CD can all be on the same roster?
No.
What I don't understand about this thing is Howie somehow finds a way. What the Cowboys doing cap-wise that how we can somehow find ways to get these guys are getting money.
I don't know.
Some way.
That's a $1 billion question, man.
I think a lot of franchises.
Is it a thing? Is it a thing? Jerry might need to take a step back and realize, maybe I'm not cut out for this anymore. Because a lot of other teams do it too.
Because it is the kids, it is the sons running it. So when you watch Dallas, no, they haven't won a Super Bowl or even won a lot of playoff games recently. But when you look at the way they've drafted over the last 7-8 years, you can see the difference in what they're looking at talent wise. When you have a guy like Tyron Smith, you had Dak, you had a lot of, Travis Frederick, Zach Martin, you're getting the Des Bryant, those type of players are drafted from the kids. So I don't think he's running it. I think Howie's next level. And that's wasn't he always a financial guy coming up with Philadelphia? Yep. So he's always been that type of dude. And I just think he's different. And that is, I would love to have a guy like that on Dallas to figure out. And also when you look at it, is Dak the best quarterback? Definitely not. but Chris said it. Kirk Cousins getting 40, over 100 million guaranteed, over 40 million a year.
Yeah.
To me, I think Dak is a better quarterback than Kirk Cousins when you look statistically. So he could be, he could be right there setting the market. And Micah and CD are both guys that you can make the
going to set
argument
the market.
are the best at their position. So it sucks because I honestly would rather have Micah and CD.
If you're Jerry, do you sit back and you look at, you say, Dak, hey man, you've won one playoff game your entire career here. I'm not going any higher than what Kirk Cousins just got.
Well, then Dak's got to take it, right? Because can he go out somewhere else and get that?
I don't know if Baker. What did Baker get?
Yeah, Baker
paid. Just got paid
35,
too.
35.
Yeah,
though.
so I do think, and I think he's a better quarterback than both of those guys. So I think if Dak hit the open market this year, I think Atlanta would have taken
playoff wins.
I don't care. I guarantee you Atlanta
on much worse teams.
Atlanta would take Dak, and he would have gotten paid more than what what's his name just got paid, Kirk Cousins. There's no doubt. Dak's a better quarterback. I think Dak on the free agent market would get paid by a team that's a quarterback away.
So Baker got a 3-year, $100 million contract worth up to $115 in incentives and $50 million guaranteed.
Yeah, Dak will blow that out of the water.
Will blow that out of the water.
It's more of an internal problem than not Dak.
Yeah, no. Well,
it could be a Michael McCarthy problem.
Opinion.
It could be a Jerry Jones he wants his team ran a certain way, and he's too much in the spotlight, and he wants to be the center of attention.
He hasn't been that. He hasn't been that. And that narrative is such a at this point he's really not because he always has to, but he's not that guy. It's more when you watch that team, it's Dak he fooled me last year. He was second.
Yeah.
Did he deserve to be second in the MVP? No, but he was, and he got me. And that first playoff game, just like he had against San Fran both prior years, he pooped the bed, okay? Really bad. And it's just ridiculous that this guy can do that for the regular season in game one. That's why to me, you got to move on from a player like that because he's not a primetime player. He folds at the pressure there. I don't know what it is. Because he had the better team last year.
It's your owner coming out every year saying this is the best team I've seen since 1996.
No, they are though. This is a very good team. I don't know how many teams they are. They had a 12-win team last 2 years.
Yeah.
They are a very good team. They just have they do the two biggest flaws. They can't stop the run, which in today's NFL, if you can't stop the run, it's going to be tough because everyone can throw, and their quarterback folds under pressure. Those are two tough hurdles to get over when you have a very good team.
I agree. All right. So before we close out the segment with talking about the couple of the free agent additions for the Eagles, just want to remind everybody, head over to SeatGeek.com right now. Use our code on the bump for $20 off your very first ticket purchase. Again, thank you to everybody, especially our day one sponsors like SeatGeek. So again, SeatGeek.com, use our code on the bump for $20 off your very first ticket purchase. Real quick, it was a trade, so it's not necessarily something we'll talk about. We'll talk about him more next week. Next week's show is going to be basically all about Jalen Hurts. We're going to kind of analyze that whole situation and where he stands to us as the franchise. When you're the quarterback, you're the franchise. So we're going to talk about a lot about Jalen Hurts next week. John, your thoughts on Kenny Pickett? That was not a guy that I expected to come to Philadelphia. I was convinced it would have been somebody maybe of a lesser name or Justin Fields, which would have been a nightmare. But your thoughts on Kenny Pickett assuming the backup position?
It's a guy that Howie doesn't do much in-person scouting, and he went and looked at him that year he was getting drafted. So I think it's just a guy he always kind of wanted, but they had Hurts at the time, so they really couldn't. I think when he went to go look at him, he looked to see if something popped out. He's like, this is actually the guy. It's not Hurts. I think he was looking for something more of like that, but he didn't see that. But this is definitely a guy I think he liked enough to bring in and as a backup and see what you can make out of it because it puts a little more pressure out of Hurts. I don't think Hurts is a Carson Wentz type player where I think he's gonna use that as motivation and not cry like Carson Wentz did. So it's I think it's a good backup. It's a wonderful backup. I like the move a lot. I think it's better than Mariota last year. Who was the other guy that they had? McKean.
Mm-hmm.
Is his name McKean? Like he's or McKee, whatever. I think he's better than him. There really wasn't much out on the market. They went after they were going after Huntley and Flacco, and Flacco ended up going to the Colts, and Huntley went up to the Browns. But I think they had their eyes on two players. I believe they made. I haven't heard anything, but I truly believe they made an offer for Justin Fields, and the only reason why they didn't get Justin Fields, and I believe it was a better offer than what the Steelers offered. The only reason why they didn't get him is because Fields wanted to go to the Steelers and compete for a starting position, and I believe he didn't want to start here. He wasn't going to start here because
I agree.
The report was that there was a team that has this already established starter in the league that offered better compensation for Fields, and I believe that team was the Eagles.
Interesting. I'm surprised a team like the Giants didn't go after a Justin Fields. That was actually surprising to me.
There's a lot of teams I'm surprised didn't go after.
Yeah, for sure.
Seahawks, the Giants, the Patriots. I mean, the Patriots are obviously going to draft the guy, but that's still. Who's the other team? I forgot that. I figured would offer for him.
If you remember,
Minnesota.
Minnesota would have been. Yeah, that would have made a ton of sense. All right, so we're gonna quickly analyze the most recent addition. So kind of, I'm gonna start it off with Saquon, who's the biggest one. I feel, the biggest positive about this is Saquon's ability to pass block. And, on top of everything he can do, the ability to pass block on this team is going to be huge for Jalen and company. He's a true third, 3-down back, which the Eagles did not have last season. If they did, they didn't venture it to see if Swift is that kind of guy or was that kind of dude. On third downs last year, they didn't trust Swift enough to keep him in there. So maybe that does answer the question, which tips the hand of defenses when Gainwell was brought in to make the Eagles offense even more predictable. I think he's going to thrive with the number one ranked offensive line in terms of the run, which I think the run rate was the tops in the NFL last season, compared to the Giants, who had the 31st ranked, run percentage with an offensive line last season. And another great thing is he's a tremendous receiver out of the backfield. I don't think his injury history is not
He's a great person too.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And I think Jason's on mute. I think
because I didn't want to be mean.
I understand,
John. Yeah.
I understand. So you do it muted so we can see your lips. Somebody, whoever's watching, please transcribe what he said in the comments. Injury history, I don't think is as bad as people think, but still a concern. But again, you're not playing on that just debilitating MetLife turf anymore, so that's going to be quite beneficial, I think.
You're initiating contact first down instead of getting hit first down because you're going to hit right in the backfield. That's going to take some injuries off.
Yeah. So, look, my only downside to this, John, I think you heard this a ton. I'm sure Jason did as well. Does paying a running back this much money hinder the ability to fill out that defense that they sorely needed help in? So that's my only question mark about Saquon. And it kind of has something to do with him personally. It has to do with they gave him a lot of money, and they really needed to fill some spots there in the defense. So that's my only critique of the signing. John, Jay, what are your thoughts on, when analyzing the Saquon deal now that it's been over a week?
I mean, I don't think it really changed much on them spending on they needed a linebacker. They signed probably the third best linebacker on the market, former All-Pro. He's 26
Kid's
years
really
old.
good.
Like, yeah. 26, he's considered the best blitzing linebacker in football.
I will say, man, there's a lot of Tampa Bay Buccaneer fans who were happy to see him go.
Yeah, but
I think it was more of an issue between him and the team.
Could he went into business for himself? Could he have been hurt a little bit at the end of the year and beat up? I mean, tell me a player that's not hurt at the end of the year. Was that a thing too? Was he like, I don't want to get hurt even more because I'm not going to get paid? Is that why he was benched? All that stuff. I mean, the guy's 26. He's a former All-Pro. Could
Yeah.
a change of scenery, something different? Eagles still have a lot of faith in Kobe Dean. So is this your number 2 linebacker and Dean's your still number 1 linebacker? It's a situation like that. They still obviously signed a pass rusher in Huff. They gave Gardner Johnson his money. You still have Blankenship back there with him. I don't think Blankenship's amazing, but I think he's a decent safety in the NFL. Obviously, you still have Slay and Bradbury because Slay and Bradbury's issues last year have been a scheming thing and not something that's their age. Maybe they come back and they're still the same players. And I think the Eagles truly missed Gardner Johnson last year, and he's back now. So I'm not really too concerned about the defense of spending money.
One point you're missing, though. No, okay, go ahead with Jan. I'm sorry.
And the cap hits like $3 million. So it really is it like they just have a ton of cap space. It's not like, they $39 million after they signed him. So it's not like
39.5.
Is the money really the issue? Because he's obviously his cap hit's not going to be super huge like a Lane Johnson's who's $20-some million, or Jalen Hurts who's $20-some million, or AJ Brown who's $20-some million. Yeah. And it will never be that high. I think like 13 is last year, so it's not like it's going to be super high.
Yeah.
Now, the one point that I think the biggest thing is he helps your defense. You're bringing a guy now that potentially could carry the ball 250 times a year, like a true workhorse guy. So that also helps the offense, to really sustain those drives and keep your defense off of the field. I think that's the biggest thing. He's a dude. Really, I look at this, kind of like San Fran when they know it's a trade, but when they traded for Christian McCaffrey. You took a chance on the dude, and then you paid him. He had those same injury concerns coming out of Carolina. And when you look at it now, if it wasn't such a quarterback award, to me, Christian McCaffrey's the MVP last year.
For sure.
I thought he was too.
Yeah, so what he does for that offense is amazing. Yeah. I think Saquon can do that same thing, if not more, because he is more of a power back as well. Yeah. Little more shifty. I felt like when you watch him, he's amazing. I think he can add that next level to the Eagles offense that they are sorely missing. And I think it takes a lot of pressure off of Jalen Hurts to really go above and beyond. And it's going to take pressure off of that defense because they're not going to have to be out there. They're not going to be out. They're going to be out there less because Eagles are going to be able to put that, just hand the ball to Saquon, if they want 25 times.
And I can tell you, he's a driven man now. He's getting all the heat from up in New York. He's getting
big time.
A lot of people around the league and saying
fans pissing on his jersey.
Yeah. So he's going to have something to say this season. I'm excited
for sure. So now that we brought his name up, I wasn't going to go to him next, but let's just go to Devin White. Let's just say 2023 was an outlier, right? This is a guy that averaged 16 starts a season over in his first 4 seasons, averaged 121 tackles per season, 9 tackles for a loss per season. He had 20 and a half sacks in those first 4 seasons. He had a second team All-Pro in there in 2020, made the Pro Bowl in 2021. Had another 125 tackles in 2022, 5.5 sacks. Look, this dude's 26 years old. He has elite. If anyone wants to go on YouTube and watch his tape, he has elite athleticism at that linebacker position. Again, he's for 95% of his career, he's a healthy player. He's a former All-Pro at a position the Eagles have ignored for decades. He graded out as one of the best coverage linebackers in the NFL, but one of the worst against the run, which will hurt. Hopefully, maybe a different defensive scheme will help that, because then he was also benched late last season. Was that in terms of the team was done with him? He was done with the team. So if you read, which you guys obviously have done, I know John has as well, there's as many pros as there has been cons sent out there in the universe about Devin White. John, I'll ask you first and go to Jason. Where do you lay mostly? Are you more on that pro side than con?
Because can you name a linebacker that's played for the Eagles since D'Amico Ryans who's better than him?
No, I can't.
Yeah, so that's there it is. He's the best linebacker the Eagles had in years. Whether he had a down year last year, it's still better. He's still better than anybody the Eagles have had in a long time.
Yeah.
So I don't really care what the cons are at this point. He's 26, he's super athletic, and he's a good player. So they can shove.
Do you have
their
an
cons.
issue with him being the last ranked linebacker against the run?
Yeah, that's a concerning because the Eagles really struggle.
That's a kind of a big concern.
But different team, different linebackers, different defensive linemen. It's different. It's all different here, and I think the Eagles have a better defense in terms of players than the Buccaneers do.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Jason, if you, from again an outsider's perspective, you wanted Devin White. Yeah. What was it that you loved about him? And in terms of the cons, what would you worry about, if anything?
At this point, Dallas is again in that situation, kind of like the Eagles, where you need linebackers. They just lost. There is an issue with the run stuffing because Dallas is in that thing where they really can't stop the run. But when you need linebackers and right now they have nobody. So it's. I just thought the risk is worth the reward. He's a guy that's can get you 150 tackles a season. So I think to me, what he adds defensively, and it is. I get the run stopping is an issue, but if you're really looking at it, you're winning the Super Bowl against teams that are throwing 50 times a game. So sure. I get the running thing, but at the end of the day, the Eagles have a very good interior line as well on defense. So I'm not really as worried as a guy, and they are going to have other line, so I'm not as worried about it. And to me, I was thinking the same thing with Dallas. I wouldn't be as worried about it because, it is a passing league. So I'd rather him get that, if he's great in coverage and I think he's like a 4-4 guy too. So, he does have speed to him. So I think it's a great signing.
And like I always say, there's no such thing as a bad 1-year deal.
No, I agree. Unless you're probably the Saints with Chase Young, but that's just me. So moving on now to what they desperately needed, which was that secondary help. CJGJ is back, which is basically Howie Roseman admitting to all of us that he made a mistake not keeping him here in the first place. I think that's pretty obvious. So to me, this guy gives the Eagles that playmaker in the secondary that was just so missed last season. He has that swagger and that mentality that the Eagles also desperately need on that defensive side, especially when you lose a guy like Fletcher Cox. So that's a big deal. Even on the offense side, you lose a voice like Kelsey. You need somebody in that locker room that's got that swagger, and he definitely takes the cake on that one. He does give new defensive coordinator Vic Fangio, I think, like flexibility on that back end of the defense, being able to play safety and in the slot. Yeah, I agree. Totally agree. But having that ability to do other things will help. For sure. Yeah.
If somehow Rodgers or Ricks can play that nickel, then he's going back to safety. But right now I see him playing. I see them drafting defensive back and then keeping him in the
agreed
in the slot.
The big issue here,
where he's played majority of his career.
Yeah, is injuries, man. Like he has missed massive chunks in each of the last 2 seasons, with much being, of course, last season with Detroit. So that part bothers me because your greatest ability is availability in the NFL. So that was my. I don't have really any cons for Devin White. I have no cons really for Saquon. This is a big one for me because you gave him a pretty good amount of money. He's going to be relied upon big time by the Eagles and Vic Fangio. The dude's got to stay on. They got to find a way to keep him on the field. If he's on the field, he is an absolute playmaker. In terms of the secondary, they haven't had a playmaker like him since Asante Samuel. In terms of an absolute ball hawk out there. So that's why you got to keep him on the field. John, I know you're a big fan of CJGJ. What was your thoughts on getting him back? And what are your pros and cons on him?
I mean, injuries the only con I really have. I think he's a great player. I was really excited when they got him. I was like, oh, let's go. And I thought they got it for a steal when they originally got him. And then I never thought they were going to sign him back. I just didn't think that was what they were going to do. I think they were going to go elsewhere on that one.
I thought McKinney was going to be an Eagle, but that's me.
But
That's
then
who I
that's
still wanted. I still want McKinney over CJGJ, but that's me.
yeah. But you're right. He's a playmaker. I mean, even
He
he
is.
played 10 games for the Eagles and had 6 picks. He led the
6
team in
picks.
interception,
Yeah.
something like that. Like he's just a absolute playmaker on the field. He's so versatile. You can play him in the slot. You can play and that. Remember Maddox went down too. He started playing the slot. You know, they were letting the other guys. Blankenship started playing. The safety. He was playing the slot. I think it just gives you so many more opportunities to. He can cover a tight end. He can cover an extra wide receiver in the game. You don't have to worry about situations like that when he's playing safety. I don't think his deal is really that expensive compared to what other safeties were getting in the league and what other.
Yeah, in 2022, he played 12 games at free safety and had 6 picks. So, that's a pretty big deal. Jason, from what you know of this guy, do you look at him as being an impact player? Would that have been a player that you wanted the Cowboys to kind of go after? But I think the Cowboys secondary is pretty decent right now. I mean, they have a lot of money in that secondary.
Well, he had the 1 year, 6 picks. He played good. Outside of that, like you said, he has had some injury concerns. Really outside of that that one season where the Eagles got him, I don't know how great he's really been. I do think a good safety can add. He is a solid safety. He has shown he could show flashes of it. So he definitely adds depth. He showed. You hope he could do it again. But it is kind of shocking. It's nice to see when a GM has to kind of eat sour grapes and go back and be like, yeah, I did make that mistake. And like John said, it's not a terrible contract. So it's not something you're super worried about. You just hope, if he stays in the field, I don't think it's definitely not a bad signing. I do think it definitely helps their defense.
Yeah, and also before he was, you bring up, you don't really know which way before he really was just a solid nickel corner. It wasn't anything extraordinary. When he came to the Eagles, he became a different player at the safety position. I think that's where he was always meant to play, was the safety position. I think that's what but he can play the nickel too if you need him to play the nickel. That's what I like about him.
All of a sudden, John sounds so perfect in his audio. I don't know what the hell you just changed.
I'm not using my my headphones, so I'm not using my headphones.
Yeah, whatever you're doing, it's working great, and do that from now on. So you actually sound like the both of us now, which is great. Phenomenal.
My bad. I won't use headphones anymore.
That's great. All right, Bryce Huff. This is the one, and this takes us all the way back to Hassan Reddick. If Bryce Huff can turn out to be what he got paid to be, then the Eagles could be in phenomenal shape. He's an explosive player. I mean, again, watch the tape of what he did last year with the Jets in 50% of the snaps. Explosive dude. Advanced statistics, which is pass rush win rate, put him in elite company. As with the best pass rushers in the league. Of course, a smaller sample size, but still the numbers are there. He didn't play very much on running down, so there are questions about him being effective against the run, which seems to be the common theme here of what the Eagles need, which is help with the run. So, John, your thoughts on Bryce Huff? I know in the very beginning when you and I were talking every day leading up to that Monday was, we want Bryce Huff. Please just go get Bryce Huff. He was number 2 on my list behind Saquon of players I wanted the Eagles to go get. McKinney was 3rd. But then, you sent me those stats regarding Huff, which I would like, if you can remember it, I would like for you to repeat that here. But then what are you excited about in terms of Huff?
The numbers don't lie about his pass rush win rate.
Yeah.
But the one he can't stop the run. So obviously he can win rushing the pass. So that's the numbers show that. He can't stop the run. Obviously, if he could stop the run, with the guy who wins like that on the pass rush, he would be playing 70+% of it. He'd be playing majority of the time. Yeah. So that's very concerning when you already have 2 guys who can't stop the run. And then, you go back and look at it. I can't remember all of them, but it was like
backups.
6 of the sacks were against backup left tackles.
Yeah.
2 of the sacks were because one of the sacks was because Tua fell down. The other
Mhm.
one was because he was unblocked, and I believe it was Herbert rolled out, and he just was able to. He was just there to sack him.
Yeah.
But he did have 2.5 sacks against Jordan Mailata. I can't remember. I can't remember the other two. Slater from the Chargers,
Yep.
and then I can't remember the other left tackle he had a sack against
Mhm.
too. But it's like, was he just happened to be a player in the right place at the right time getting those
Right.
sacks? That's the thing. But we'll have to wait and see. I mean, it seems like it's a cheap deal for what edge rushers are getting paid for. The cap hit was another one that was like $4 million, so it's not like it's a huge cap hit. You can, it's a 3-year deal. He's young, so and there's a lot of
So do you look
Fangio
at this
likes
as a
young
low
guys.
risk, high reward, or high risk, high reward?
I think it's a low risk, high reward. And Fangio loves young guys. I think this is somebody Fangio is going to work with, and it's
Mhm.
somebody that just fits like the scheme for Fangio and the guys he likes as an edge rusher.
Yeah, he's about to turn 26 in a couple weeks, but you're right. I mean,
Dude, that's had 9 sacks in his first 3 seasons.
yeah, yep. That's where the struggle is.
It's tough. To me, it's tough to say.
But
You're
once
getting
he
a
got
dude
more
on the
playing
cheap.
time,
Well, okay, but where were you at? What was it? Were you?
You're right.
And like John just said, if a lot of those said who are you? It's tough for me to say 17 million for a dude who got 1 season of 10 sacks. What it was is about 17 million a year. That's tough for me to justify.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a high because if he goes back to that 3 sack dude, 17 million over the next 3, per
You're
year.
in trouble.
That's
something
a tough hit.
Went colossally wrong if he regresses back to that. That's a massive.
I think he's going to be a lot. He's going to be fresher here too, along with if Reddick's still here. Nolan Smith's here. Sweat's here. Brandon Graham's here. I think he's going to be He's going to be fresh. He's going to have a lot of opportunities on passing down. So I think
the Jets had a very good defensive line. Jets were
that's where
top defense.
You got a lot of the opportunities there too. So I think that's where I don't think he's going to be a 70% snap guy, but I can see him being 50% there, and still get close to those numbers. I mean, Brandon Graham did it.
Yeah, I would love to get anywhere between 9 to 11 sacks out of Huff in year 1. That would be tremendous.
I don't know if we're gonna get that.
Mm.
Like if I had to make a prediction,
you better keep Hassan Reddick.
I think he gets 6 sacks.
6
for a $17 million player.
Plus 6+ sacks around there. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not there yet. I gotta see more and see what happens. Maybe it's something he figures out here. Maybe it's the scheme that Fangio runs. Maybe there's something about him. Maybe he's a player Fangio wanted and believes he can work with and can turn him into that player, and that's why they went after him. Because it seems like, Kellen Moore said, I wanted Saquon Barkley for my scheme. This could have been a guy where Fangio said, I want this
everybody wants Saquon Barkley for their scheme.
But
I guarantee you that.
You're right. But how many offensive coordinators are going to be able to go to their to the executive and be like, I want this guy, and they go out and get him? I mean, I
think a lot, but I also think it's time and space. I think you're overthinking I just think the dude got lucky on a contract year, got himself a double-digit sack number when he played for a very good team, and he happened to capitalize it.
It's very possible.
You have to just hope if your Eagles.
It's not the first or last time that's going to happen.
You got to hope he's at least. To me, I want to hope he's at least not 8 to 9. To me, 8 has to be the floor for him at 17 million. I can't have 6.
Yeah.
Look, I remember back in 2003 when the Eagles signed this stud freak named Javon Curse, and they gave him a huge contract after he had 14.5 sacks his rookie year. He had 11.5 the next, 10, then he got hurt, and then the year before Philly he had 9.5 sacks, and he never got above 7.5 with the Eagles. So this is where
for real
what?
I gotta go check that, because I felt like
I'm telling you, please correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know for a fact, but I think he had 14.5 his rookie year, 11.5 his second. I think he had 9.5 or 10 his third, and he got hurt. The year before he went to the Eagles, he had 9.5 sacks. He did not have above 7 or 7.5 with the Eagles. Correct? Please. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, 7.5, 7.5, 3.5, 3.5,
So
3.5.
for those who want to question me about my Eagles knowledge, fuck off. Just saying. So I'm pretty sure I nailed his numbers too before that. So this could be that situation where you get a guy who had a career year, cashes in, doesn't even come close to reaching that ability
I
again.
wouldn't
So
put that in the same category.
I'm not going to put it in the same category.
Yeah.
But in terms of what you just said, it's happened before and it could happen again, and it's gonna happen.
He doesn't even have a track record like Hurst had.
No, he did. He doesn't have a track record. No.
So it's tough to pay. It's tough to justify. I get what you said, John, of the market, but I
agree.
To me, it's tough to really. You got to hope he's a playmaker.
Yeah, I mean, but there's another guy, who kind of cashed it at the right time because he really didn't do much before his first 3 years in the NFL.
And who's that?
Hassan Reddick.
Hassan Reddick. I knew you were going to say Hassan Reddick, but his deal wasn't that big when he signed with the Eagles. It was less than what Huff got.
I would go back and look at the numbers. I think it was.
But he'd already had a 12 sack and an 11 sack before he even signed with the Eagles.
Yeah.
3 years, $45 million.
He did have more of he had 2 double-digit sacks. He's shown he could do it in 2 different systems. So he had a little bit more out there showing what he could do.
But one thing I'll say about Reddick, at the time, when he got paid, 3 years, $45 million.
Yeah.
That was about the market. I want to say the highest paid edge rusher was making $20 million, and then Nick Bosa just blew that out of the water.
Well, yeah,
the following year.
Yeah.
So it really wasn't a huge. And then Garrett blew it out of the water as well. So that was about the right market. And he also took a little bit of a hometown discount just to play Philadelphia, but that was about the market that edge rushers were getting at the time.
Makes sense. So a couple of the other players we won't really get into, but Oren Burks. He is what he is. Zach Bond, Matt Hennessy. Matt Hennessy could end up.
I'm actually excited for the Zach Bond guy. They put him on the edge last year, and he had a lot better year. So
I agree. That's somebody who could make an impact. Look, Oren Burke, if you want to know anything about him, watch Super Bowl. He did kind of come in an impossible situation, replacing Dre Greenlaw, but he's 29 years old. This is, he's never really had a really good opportunity to do anything. At this point, you are what you are. You're not going to be 30 and redefine your career. But that it is what it is.
With that depth, something they don't have.
Exactly. That's what it is. It's a good depth move. I agree. So
it's a very Chris thing of you to do to big up that linebacker. Just because I know.
All right. So next week, we're going to be talking all about Jalen Hurts because that's been a big touching point with the Eagles since last season. Since basically after week 10 of last season, the main discussion is Jalen Hurts. What is he? What can we expect from him? Realistically, since he's been an Eagle, he's had one really big season, and they went to a Super Bowl that year, and then he regressed in 2023. There's no doubt about the fact that the guy regressed. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the future because the dude's getting paid a lot of money to be the quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles. And we're basically just going to have an open forum about Jalen Hurts. So I'm looking forward to that. Jason, Cowboys Takeover podcast. I know you guys just recently had an episode. When do you guys coming out with another one, which does stream live also on YouTube and Facebook? When's your next episode and what do you guys got coming up?
So right now we're just kind of like I don't know how you guys are. It's the off season, not a lot of news. We just recorded one last week. Right now we're probably looking at every 2 weeks. So the next one will probably be out next week. But if you want to check it out, you can check us out on all of our socials. And that's usually with this time of year, that's when we'll kind of put it out there. Hey, we'll let them know in the beginning of the week that it's dropping that week.
Well, you guys have a lot planned for the draft.
We do. Last year we did a live show during the draft, so we're thinking about doing that again this season.
I think that's what we're going to be doing.
Kind of go in midway, definitely not from pick 1, but midway through.
Oh yeah,
because I think Dallas is late 20s, so usually we go. I think last year we went around like 23, like 3-4 picks before.
Right,
went over some stuff leading up to it, so we're probably going to do something like that again this year.
Awesome, phenomenal. So we can find you. How can we get you on YouTube?
Oh, just the Cowboys Takeover podcast on all social media platforms and on YouTube.
Phenomenal. We'll probably have Jay on throughout the season. We'll definitely do simulcast podcast for when the Eagles play the Cowboys twice, so that should be a lot of fun. John, thanks again as always. I'll see both of you guys tomorrow night. So let's we're gonna be putting on different hats for tomorrow as we basically have our biggest show of the year. Right, Howard. Perfect. I love that. So we have a massive show tomorrow for the Phillies. I cannot wait. I can't wait for me to pick them to probably win the World Series, and John's gonna pick, Kyle Schwarber, and then not even care about anything else. He's just gonna talk about Kyle Schwarber the entire
I got
time.
it all written. I wrote it down the other day. All my predictions.
Yeah, I know you have it in text. It sucks next to all of them.
Rojas, he's not sure up yet, though. He's not sure
Rojas
up.
Not sure,
yet.
but still
But
sucks.
but he's still there may be room for improvement.
I'm sure of one thing with Rojas. The dude's allergic to hitting a baseball. I'll tell you that much. But all right, this is the Gangrene Eagle show.
I think he hit a double on Saturday. Never mind, that's Pache. Never mind.
That was Pache. But this is the Gangrene Eagle show, episode 2. Again, thank you guys so much. Catch us on the RTB network, on YouTube. Ring the bell 856 everywhere else. Branding is coming soon, getting that all wrapped up. There's a lot that goes into this. But we should have all that taken care of very shortly. Hopefully, I know for sure before the draft. I'm assuming before the end of the month. So excited to roll that out to everybody. At ChristyFriend3 on Twitter and on Instagram. Find me on Facebook as well, where you guys can find out all the information about upcoming shows and whatnot. Again, tomorrow night, Ring the Bell Philly show, big 2024 preview and prediction show. I look forward to that show every year. So I'm super pumped for that. That'll be on here tomorrow night, live streaming on YouTube. And if you are on YouTube, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. We are just, I think, like 7 away from 2,000 subscribers. And guys, Jay and I were talking, let's get to 100 before opening day. We're about to hit 2,000, hopefully, before opening day. So thank you guys so very much. I'm Christy Francesco. That's John McElroy and Jason Kent. And we'll catch you guys down the road. Have a good one, everybody. Bye-bye.